Now we're recording.
We're
Thank you for that
recording.
permission.
Whatever I can do, Allie. I'm always here for support.
Excellent.
Beautiful
Welcome,
humans.
welcome. Yeah, this is number 8. Is it number
Yes.
8?
Number
Wow.
8 of SheKings for peasants who don't want to live shitty lives. Welcome.
Yes. Yeah. And I hope everybody loves the new logo thing. Give us some feedback. I like it. And we are actually going to work on a song. We're going to hire someone to do our little jingle.
We are.
We're pulling it together.
We are. One day we're going to be like super duper professional, but we're going to keep it real no matter what.
It'll look like this with just some music.
Yeah, basically. Basically.
Okay, so last week we said that we were going to talking about forgiveness for this episode. So forgiveness is such a hard topic, but it's so important.
Why is it a hard topic?
I think because people's interpretation of forgiveness and where forgiveness comes from and what should it look like. There's so many stories around forgiveness and just a lot of disagreement. Like, so most people think that other people should forgive them, right? That forgiveness comes from outside of them.
Really?
And then they wait for it. Yeah.
Well, okay. Tell me more. So most people think that people should forgive them. And if those people forgive them, then they feel better about themselves. So all they need is for that person to say, it's okay, you're fine.
Right. Or I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what I said. Please forgive me. I mean, I see it working with my clients, like they're holding on to that. They're waiting for that. And then, as you know, I'm a big fan of Netflix and even in movies, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I will never forgive you. It's like, okay. Right. So that's kind of what we, what we're raised to believe. For me, it was ask for forgiveness from God. So I see forgiveness now totally different than I was raised. Yeah.
I feel like I was raised in a family where forgiveness was never sought. So, and I don't know what this, I'm going to slaughter this quote, but I come from a family where it's like being family means never having to say, I'm sorry.
That's the one that you inquiry. Is that true?
So I come from a family where, you know, the sorries that you get from your parents or, you know, I grew up with my cousins, where we were talking again or we're playing again, but the actual issue was never addressed. And so I feel like I don't really have a concept of how I do or did forgiveness. I think I have a concept of it now.
Right.
But I was never taught to seek forgiveness. I was never taught how to grant forgiveness. And so all of the forgiveness that I've given over these years, even to those family members who, you know, I never received a sorry from, it was self-teaching. And I think, just a side note, this goes back to why I love that we're doing this podcast, because, you know, when we started, we were talking about how so much of the stuff that we have done spiritually, we did on our own. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of the people that we are talking to. There are a lot of people who listen to this podcast, but just having that extra guidance is so helpful. And I wish that I had something like this when I was going through my process. So what do you now think about forgiveness?
Well, that it's not anything that is outside of you. Like, it has to come from you, right? You can't seek it. You can't heal from somebody else giving it to you, because that will just be you giving it to you. So it's like growing up my parents would always tell me that, God will forgive anything. But then, so then if that is true, then why do you have to be good? Why
Right.
can't you live your life? And
Right.
then, because God's going to forgive you anyway. So just live your life. But then there's a whole list of rules that you have to go by, that you have to obey. But God will forgive you no matter what.
Right. 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 Right.
So it's so contradictory
Right.
from my point of view. So now, when was it? It was kind of, maybe it was years ago, but it was eye opening. I was watching Oprah, big Oprah fan. And I'm sad that she's off NBC because that was my afternoons, people.
I
With
also love
Oprah.
Oprah. So Oprah, if you ever listen, we love you. Okay. SheKings love Oprah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. And I don't know where she got this from. And I know everybody's heard it, but not forgiving somebody is like eating poison and expecting the other person to die. Like
Yes.
that was so huge for me because
Yes.
like we hold on to so much shit and we hold grudges and resentment and anger and frustration for something that was done or said to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't let that go until the person apologizes, asks for forgiveness, and then we'll let it go. And that was really eye-opening to me because it's like, who's suffering? Because last week you were talking about your mom and your sister, not
But and
like
her
your
sister.
mom was angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, her sister. And your aunt didn't even know why
Yep.
your mom was mad, right? So,
So she's
and that's
chewing on poison every day. Mom.
yes. And so, like some people have no idea, like they said something and I took it wrong, right? And I'm going to hold on to this. And the other person has no clue, right? So here I am holding on to all this anger and resentment, and the other person has no clue at all. So we're literally damaging our bodies, our energy, everything about us. We're literally calling in more drama,
Yep.
more resentment because of that frequency that we're holding on to, when it is in our benefit to move on, to heal, to expand, is to forgive ourselves. Forgive ourselves for holding on to it. Forgive ourselves for the story that we attach to it, the situation, whatever it is, like to forgive ourselves. And it's not that we did something wrong in that moment. It's just that we're holding on to it. Why would you hold on to it? Like that's not beneficial. You're doing damage to your body and everything about you when you hold on to shit like that. So that's how I see forgiveness now.
Yeah, no. So essentially saying, I'm forgiving you for me. Like, I'm forgiving
Yes.
you for me. And I'm also forgiving myself for allowing this negative energy, these bad vibes to circulate around me for
Yeah.
so long. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And when I think about those big things that happened to me, so being molested as a child, right? No one's unclear that that was a bad thing, including the person who did it, right? And getting to the point where I forgave that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I realized, like you said, I was just causing suffering. I was living in this thinking and replaying it over and over again. And so therefore experiencing that negative experience over and over again. And then any of the conversations that came after that and around that hurt me, I'm experiencing all that again. And so, like you said, I'm carrying around this just heavy negative energy. And so I'm attracting low vibe people,
Mm-hmm.
attracting low vibe situations. So exactly what you said. But I think there's almost this belief I had somehow that I was punishing that person, right? So like
Yeah.
just, as I go through it in my mind, I'm just thinking, you're a bad person. How could you do that? Bad person, bad person, bad person. And at the end of the day, I have this thinking around the idea of karma. So everybody, when you talk about karma, it's what goes around comes around. And so if you did something bad as you see it, years ago, you're like, something bad happens to you today. And you're like, that's because 3 years ago, I did that terrible thing. And now
that's
I'm being paid
the
back.
that's the touche universe. Touche.
Right. Exactly. And I'm a firm believer that karma is right this minute. And so
Mm-hmm.
when the
Yes.
person did that you know, very bad, no good thing, the energy that they created in their own body
Yes.
is all the punishment they need. You know, like me rethinking it, like there's no additional punishment that I can add to that. Me
Right.
plotting, you know, some negative end for that person, like I'm not
Breaking out
gonna
your
do
black
it.
magic book.
Exactly. I'm like, yeah, this person has very few strands of hair, but let me get one of those so I can get my voodoo doll together to
Yes.
end this person. So I think understanding that there is no suffering that the universe has not already meted out to anybody who's done something that just was seriously wrong. So getting beyond somebody saying a negative thing to you. But even that, if somebody is legitimately creating some negative energy in their body in order to say a negative thing to you, believe me, they've already paid the price. You don't have to walk around carrying it and plotting how you're going to get back to them or thinking about how terrible they are, because to create that negative energy in their bodies in order to say that negative thing to you or do that negative thing to you, it is heavy stuff. So
Yeah.
what they give, they gave it first to themselves. And so somehow when I was first learning how to forgive, knowing that the suffering was already happening and I didn't have to do anything made me feel better. I'm like, no worries, you're suffering. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
But then I think the other thing is, and we talk about this a lot, Allie, when you really, and this is terrible, especially since I brought up molestation, and this may actually be way, way too deep for this program, but let's try it.
Let's do it.
When you really think about the things that are happening in your life, and maybe we can, you know, talk about a negative comment or if some things are not going very well at work, or just make it something a little bit simpler. Um, you called it in.
Yeah.
You called it in. And so you being mad at that person, no, what did that, why is that situation in front of you? What is it? How is it there for you? How is it there supporting you and your growth and your evolution? Right?
And even those things like, yeah, we do call them in, and they're opportunities. They're opportunities for us to heal past shit, the shit that's happening right now. Like they're all opportunities. And so if we pass up those opportunities by holding grudges or having anger, then know that it's just going to keep coming around and around. And you'll have a collection of people who need to forgive you at the end of the day. On your deathbed, you'll have them all lined up, just be like, oh, because you're not taking those opportunities that the universe was giving to you to heal, to expand. And so, yeah, it matches a frequency that you're kicking out. And I always tell my clients, you have no say in what your life looks like. You have 100% what it feels like. So, whatever is being done to you or said to you, it's going to trigger a feeling. So, whether it's unworthiness or anger, know that you kick that out first before that thing was done or said.
Right.
And that's your opportunity to heal it. So, yeah, there really is nothing to forgive except for to forgive yourself for attaching to this drama,
Yep.
attaching to this very thing that you don't like. So energetically, when something happens and you won't let it go, like you're playing in your head over and over and over again, you are literally energetically connecting yourself to the very thing that you want out of your life, and it will never go away. It'll
Absolutely.
absolutely never go away. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one example I can give of that is I have always, since I was young, had just a terrible perception of myself and my body.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that there have been times when I have been my most fit and I've come across somebody who will tell me I'm fat. Right.
Yeah.
And old Erica would be like, fuck you, motherfucker. What kind of person are you? I don't even know you. How could you say that to me? And like really, really be in it. But like you said, before that person came up to me and said that thing, I was kicking out the frequency. Like if I really look
Mhm.
back at where I was energetically, I was kicking out the frequency of not enough, unworthy, unsure, not confident. And so even if I was smiling and in the middle of, you know, an upward facing dog and somebody whispers in my ear, "Hey, Erica, lose the weight." That really happened.
That did happen. I do remember that in India.
In India, right? "Hey, Erica, lose the weight." Right. I can make it about that person, or I can get really, really, really honest. And like, we live in a world where people will let me, because this is what we're taught. So it's not crazy, but they will let me believe that that person is a bad person and there's just something wrong with this freaking lunatic and yada, yada, yada. But we've all been there. We've all said some things that were probably not that nice, but you were just playing your part, responding to the frequency that was being kicked out. You were giving the person what they asked for. I was asking to be called that every single time somebody said it. And I look at it now and we talk about the process of healing, right? All those people absolutely forgiven, but I also don't deal with it. So now I'm 1 year off of having my first child. I am larger than I've ever been. I also feel lighter and happier and more joyful than I've ever felt. And not a single human soul. And I live on a Caribbean island when people love to be like, "Oh, you're getting fat, girl." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" What? I don't even know you. Like, what are you talking? Not a single human soul, since I cleared that up, has come up to me to mention to me anything about my weight or my body, or if any change was there, it's quote unquote worse. I love my body, but it's quote unquote, I'm heavier. Right. And I'm not having those problems anymore.
Because you forgave you for even having those thoughts.
Yep.
There's nobody outside of you to forgive because it's you.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's where I'm saying that for people listening to this, I'm sure some people have a hard time wrapping their mind around that concept, because for humans with ego, it's so much easier to blame people and to hold grudges. But it is so toxic. It is so toxic. But I just laugh about our perceptions about our body, because I've always like just pride myself being in shape. And then I went to the island to teach with Erica. And I felt so self-conscious. Like all the women had amazing curves and booties, and I was just like flat, like no butt, nothing. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I look horrible." And all these women are walking around with all these curves. And then when I came back from the island, that's where I was just like, I'm getting a trainer and I'm getting a butt and some thighs.
Booty. What do you mean?
This is so, yeah. So don't go to the island thinking skinny is going to be it, because it's not.
Yeah. Listen, ass is status in the Black community. I try to tell people all the time. I'm like, listen, booty means something. Don't you work that booty off. Build the booty. Work with the booty.
For sure.
But yes.
That's fine.
And I just, one more thing I want to point out, just to emphasize, if you notice, Allie has been saying, forgive yourself, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. So her whole concept of forgiveness has literally had nothing to do with you looking outside of yourself to forgive that other person. It is really, really, really about forgiving you.
Right. So forgiving you for thinking you're not good enough, forgiving you for thinking that you're fat, forgiving yourself for being a victim.
Yes.
Forgiving, like everything that happens to you is a response to a frequency.
Absolutely.
So forgive yourself for kicking it out. What is the Hawaiian forgiveness
Ho'oponopono
quote? Yes.
Yeah.
That one is awesome.
Yeah.
It's
I love you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
Yes.
Please
That's
forgive
it.
me. I love you and thank you.
Yes.
And that is just, and you're not saying to anybody other than yourself. Because there is nobody else. And if you don't know that story, Google it, because it's so powerful on this therapist, this doctor who healed this whole ward, his wing on his ward, from mental issues by just saying that, because he understood that there was no separation between him and these inmates who've done violent things and had mental issues. So Google it. It's so powerful. But if you can start to see it that way and say it to yourself, you're healing you. And then you're sharing it with
Yeah.
people around you. Like, there's no need to hold resentment or grudges because it is you.
Yeah, I love that. And so for this week, your homework is to just write out what you need to forgive yourself for.
Yeah. And can I add, how about we have them write down people who have done you wrong and
Oh,
how they've done you wrong, and then see it that it's you, and how can you forgive yourself for that situation? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you think about, when you forgive yourself for being a victim for so many years, you are essentially taking back your power.
Yes.
You are saying victim no longer. And from that moment, your entire life is available to be completely different. You can turn on a dime and just create something so new and so beautiful and so amazing. But if you insist on thinking that forgiveness, I've got to find a way to forgive that person outside of me for doing that thing to me, then you stay in that place of victimhood and you haven't learned the lesson yet. So, like Ali said, write down everybody who you think you need to forgive and why you need to forgive them. And then ask yourself, why is it that I need to forgive myself?
Yeah. And don't be like, go all out. Like, that person did this
Yep.
and that person is a whatever, whatever, whatever. And then say, okay, no, this is actually me doing it to myself.
Absolutely. And I love Byron Katie always says, be as petty as you can be.
Yeah.
Hashtag
Yes.
petty, petty, petty.
Pettiness.
Yes. So really list it out and really look at it like, what is the energy that calls that in unworthiness, victimhood, whatever? What is the energy? I forgive myself for being in that space. Write it down. I forgive myself for being in a victim space. I reclaim my power today.
Yeah.
Right now. Yes.
Yeah. And there's so much work. The boss who fired you, the friend who left you, the husband who cheated on you, whatever it is,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
write it
Yes. Yes.
down,
Yes.
because you'll
Yes.
just be like, oh, I was a victim here and
Yep.
here, right? This whole year I was angry
Yep.
and this happened and this happened and this happened.
Absolutely.
So then you can just like give yourself a hug and be like, I'm so sorry. It's like, I'm
Absolutely.
a bitch to myself. I'm
We
so
all are.
sorry.
We
Yeah.
all are. We treat ourselves
Absolutely.
so badly under the guise of it being other people and us having no control. But when
Yeah.
you start to realize that it's all you and you're painting this picture, pretty, ugly, good, bad, you're painting this picture, then you are in control and you realize that you can create whatever it is you want to create. And
Yeah.
that's a living.
Yes. Excellent. I love it. So next week, what should we talk about next week? I think what goes hand in hand, maybe how to advocate for yourself without buying into the drama, without buying into the pettiness.
Oh my gosh. I have a client who this will speak to her soul. I love that. We have got
Okay.
to talk about that. So yes,
All right. Let's do that.
yourself.
Remember that we said that we're going to talk about that.
I
Like
love
a
it.
couple of days before we record, I'm just like, okay, what are we talking about? Even though we do this during every show. Okay, so next week.
Yes. So
Excellent.
advocate for yourself. It's
Yeah,
all
how to
important.
advocate. Excellent. I love it. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to episode 8 on forgiveness. And we hope it shines some light on you and the power that you have, and start pulling it back from your stories of people who you believe did you wrong.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll tune in next week for how to advocate for yourself.
And you've been listening to SheKings for peasants who do not want to live shitty lives no more. All
No
right,
shitty.
guys. Yes.